Hey, hey,
Hey, Justin. How's it going? Uh, Good. How are you?
how's it going?
Funny, I
Doing well,
was just
thanks.
trying to
How you
set the
doing?
camera. I thought I was going to be on the bottom. Last time I ended up being on the bottom.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to do too with the phone. I was like, all right, gotta change it up and okay, trying to prop up something for a phone stand. I used to have an
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
tripod for the
Yeah, that's what I'm
phone,
on
but
right now.
couldn't find it, so just
Yeah,
yeah, I just jimmied something
that's
up
good.
real quick.
This is where you normally film your YouTube videos?
Yeah, kind of like my home office slash
Uh,
music room kind of deal. So I do all the editing from my
Oh, okay.
music
Is it
stuff down here as
in your
well. So
basement?
that can get pretty distracting at times. Yeah, which is it's kind of funny in my basement because no one sees actually what like
Right.
the whole room actually looks like. My basement's kind of like a
Okay.
giant
Yeah.
L almost, where like the stairs come down right over here, and then there's like a hook around, kind of like in the nook where I am here, and then we actually have
Okay.
like a full bar right across from me here and stuff like that, and then home gym
Oh,
system,
wow.
and then like a home theater system way down there in the corner. So it's kind of like a big kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
system.
yeah.
So it's like little sections of different things and like the
It's quite the man
bar and
cave.
stuff like that. But
You've got the whole setup.
it is. It's yeah, it's great. It's kind of funny if I go down to like if I come down here to a game or something like that. Like you got to walk
Right,
past
right,
all this stuff to get to it. So sometimes you'll stop and play for a bit, and then my buddies are meeting me online for COD or something like that. It's like half hour later, and I'm just playing. I'm like, oh crap, okay,
That's a
sorry
good
guys.
problem to have, though. You got to go through the guitars.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I always struggle with finding time to play sometimes. Like sometimes it becomes a habit, and then other times it's just like hard to pick up the guitar for an extended period of time. It sucks when
yeah. I've definitely gone through those phases too. And at least this way, it's kind of like, okay, to get to, any of the stuff down here that I want to kind of do, it's you walk past it quite often. So I've tried to develop a habit where it's like, okay, like, I walk past, like, I'm
yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just pick it up for
Yeah,
5 minutes.
that's a big thing, honestly. Even like I was in that phase at some point too, just like even if I can pick it up and play for 5 minutes, it's better than nothing. Like anything's gonna help. Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
I uh oh, go ahead.
I see you got, I was going to say, I see you got the
Oh
push
yeah.
pedal sitting nicely
Yeah, I got a
down
whole
there.
bunch of them on the table here actually too. I had the Empyrean up there, but I took it down. Yeah, I figured the last I guess that was a few weeks ago now. I talked to Nikola Gugoski, and right before I was like, "Good, it doesn't hurt to throw the pedals up there." I I, I
Exactly. A little reminder to
what I'm
everyone.
doing.
Check those out.
Yeah, I put the albums up too. This was maybe I don't know a month or two ago, because I had a Pearl Jam poster up there for a while, and it was a nice poster. But I figured I'm doing mostly Chili Pepper stuff, so
Yeah, you kind of want to
yeah.
be a little bit more on brand, but I mean,
No,
I thought yeah,
oh no, no.
Pearl Jam though. Those are still one of the last artists I got to scratch off that
Uh,
concert bucket list of
I
mine.
I
Like,
I saw them.
gotta go see those guys.
Well, actually, more than a few times. I think, yeah, it was supposed to be in 2020. It would have been my 20th show, but it got postponed, and I saw them. Well, it got rescheduled for I guess the last year in Toronto. Um, so I think that might be
Yeah.
the last one though. That was I had a good run like between 2011 and not sure when the last time was before that. Maybe 2018. I had seen them quite a bit, and sometimes like 4 or 5 in a row. Uh, yeah,
Oh wow, yeah. I think Ryan too.
here
A lot of bands
in
were
Alberta.
sort of like either
Yeah,
down to yeah. Yeah. So for us, we get a lot of people kind of pass us over where it's like, usually the big acts got to go to Toronto, but I usually just end up going
right.
to Los Angeles now at this point. So we have
Okay.
in-laws down there, so can go visit them at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Get away from the
I
cold
think I'd rather go to LA than Toronto.
or
Yeah, it seems like
Vancouver as well. Yeah. Well, it's just
right,
expensive too to go to Toronto. Actually, it was cheaper for
right.
me to actually go
Yeah,
to
yeah,
LA
yeah.
at this point because we have a
Yeah,
place to stay and stuff like
it
that.
seems like
But
a lot of acts will only play like Toronto and Vancouver. I guess it's probably not very cost effective to drive across the country. Like, I think the last time Pearl Jam did like a full on Canadian tour like that was 2014 5 where they went like from coast to coast.
Oh,
Yeah.
probably, yeah. I know it's a shame a lot of acts don't come this way, so it's a treat when I get to see an act locally. Like the Foo Fighters usually come here every tour that they do. They've always been very good for that, but they're really the only band that I can more or less think of. Even the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The only 2 times I've seen them live were both with Josh Klinghoffer during that era. And they came to town both times on the two tours, and obviously great shows. But then with John, when they came back, I was kind of like, okay, well, if history is any indication, they'll do a fairly, they'll cover Canada fairly well. And then they did just a global stadium tour, and I was like, okay, that definitely means
yeah. Was it only Toronto? I know they have a Vancouver show set up in March, but
yeah, they're doing Vancouver, I believe, like you said, in March, and then they're doing Toronto as well. Just the way things worked out for me, I won't be able to see them on kind of this tour. So hopefully,
I actually wanted to ask you if you had got
them live
chance, because that's
no,
I had seen them twice with Klinghoffer too.
Yeah.
Shortly after he joined, I think the first time was 2012 at Lollapalooza, and then 2014 I saw them too at Metallica's festival in Detroit. So it was definitely, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of them yet at that point, and like not really even into like John so much at the time. So like I never thought he would come back, like I became this huge fan like probably after like those shows, maybe between like 2015 or 2016 is when I really started getting into him. And it didn't even, I think even Anthony said the same thing, or I don't know, somebody in the band, like it didn't even occur to me that wasn't going to be an option,
Yeah, I never thought it was going to happen either. I mean, I liked Josh when he was in the band. I definitely have a lot more appreciation for him now than I did when he was in it, which is one of those, unfortunate things, but I'm very thankful I got to see them live. Back then, like I was pretty into John back then, but I wasn't like as much into, I guess, gear and like playing as much as I probably should have back then. But I remember at least the Dark Necessities tour. I just was more upset that they never played Danny California.
It's like a staple.
I was so chapped when I left the show. I know, I was like, oh, come on, guys. Like, I wanted to hear it. That at the time was my favorite Chili Pepper song. And so I was pretty PO that they never ended up playing that. But yeah, when John rejoined, I literally thought that, I think it was Chad had posted it, or I think Chad's post on Instagram first. And I thought he was hacked. I thought it was someone just like screwing with every Frusciante fan out there, being like, oh yeah, John's rejoining the band. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it was just so out of nowhere.
And then all of a sudden you see everyone else post. Yeah, you see Flea repost it, and then you see the Chili Peppers Instagram page repost it, and I'm like, it's like the part, I'm not sure if you watch The Office, but it's like that the one episode where he's like, oh my god, it's happening! Everyone stay calm, and just like everyone's freaking out. That was pretty much.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
it's just like black screen with white text, like
very like. Not necessarily the most professional way to go about it, just very bluntly. Yeah,
I know. Like that's what made it seem like, oh, this doesn't seem like real. Is this for real?
Yeah, I thought maybe we'd get like a video announcement, or something like that, or a photo all together in the studio. But yeah, just a black text, and then of course with the what that happened, we didn't really get anything for a while. Right. From those guys,
right,
between the writing process.
Yeah, that sucked
too. It was a while to even get like confirmation that like, okay, this is actually like, the album I thought was almost never going to come, because I felt so long.
It might have ended up being a good thing, just like for the sake of the writing process. Like, I don't know if you listened to the interviews with Rick Rubin that the band did, and like all the episodes with John. I've been listening to that a lot. It seems like the process that they took for like, going back and like learning, I think, like songs from the 50s and stuff, like starting off with cover songs and then learning like the really old original Chili Pepper songs, just to sort of get back into it without trying to force like the writing process. Like they might not have been able to do that
Yeah, that was a really cool way they went around it for sure. You know, like refining their chemistry in that way, like a cover band and kind of their roots back when they were younger and the stuff that they kind of were relatively familiar with. And then, yeah, exactly. Learn all those old songs of theirs that they, you know, don't perform anymore at all, and kind of blending back into it. It was really cool. They definitely, I think, went about it the
Yeah,
right way for sure.
yeah, because they were supposed to play a few shows like pretty quickly. Because I had actually tickets to see them at Boston Calling, which would have been I think the second show back, and I was pretty excited for that because Rage Against the Machine was playing too, and I never thought I'd be able to see them play either. And then it got canceled. And
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when that got canceled and everyone was super upset, and even just from, you know, someone who wasn't being able to go, it just was like, okay, we're gonna get more footage of John and the band and kind of seeing what the chemistry of the band is like once they come back in. Of course, it didn't happen, but yeah, John, please don't leave the band. So I asked you to see you live with them next year or something.
I mean, it seems like he's enjoying himself, and like I don't know, like how well have you been keeping up with it? A friend of mine, he was like he'll watch all the shows, like find videos on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. So he had kind of like seen how John started off not being like maybe super comfortable on stage to, you know, eventually getting better. Like, have you been keeping up with that kind of stuff?
I haven't been paying attention more so to John's stage presence. Like I think maybe just because he's older and from watching so much footage of him when he was younger, he's definitely not as he definitely seems a bit more reserved when he's on stage, in my opinion now. But I think that's just because, you know, all of them have gotten that much older and stuff. And I think, you know, maybe for John, he's more focused on the music and, you know, being in the moment of that. And like before, we use a little bit more like, you know, not fully running around on stage like something like Anthony would be, but he's a bit more animated and stuff like that. But definitely, you know, it's nice to see just clips of him where he's playing a note or him and we are jamming and you see him just like grinning from ear to ear and you can tell that he's like really enjoying himself. That's that's really good to see and everything. But I watched just mainly a ton of footage just for the content on my channel where it's like trying to watch for him stepping on effects during different parts of the songs to like actually have footage evidence of it, even though we might necessarily know you can hear it where it's like, okay, that's probably what he's using there. But I'm someone who likes to have like the actual like, okay, well, here's a clip of him actually stepping on this pedal. But of course, because it's a stadium tour, there's no side stage.
It's pretty impossible to see that from the crowd. Like, stage is so high.
Yeah, so I've watched a ton of footage just for that, trying to like weed through it all, just being like, okay, what's he doing there? And slowly I'm finding more and more stuff, which is interesting. But yeah, no,
it's actually something I wanted to ask you about with your channel, because you seem pretty on top of kind of like the latest news or the latest pictures that come out. Like I saw your video about like when we got the full like pedalboard shot from the Apollo Theater show. And I think you recently just posted that clip that was going around of him playing like when he's 17. So how do you keep up with that? You seem to be like pretty on top of it pretty quickly, and you're getting the content out there.
It's honestly, it's just it's a commitment, and it's I hate to use the word like sacrifice, but that's sometimes what it is almost. Where I tried doing the whole like upload once a week thing with like a schedule, but I found that I was able to batch content very quickly where like I would almost have like a month and a half's worth of content done, you know, and the month was maybe a third over or something like that, just because, you know, I've gotten into a pretty good routine where I sit down, I shoot, like I script, but I don't fully script any of my content. That's why sometimes there's, you know, I say things that are, you know, clearly not like in the video I posted of him playing like kind of chatting about him when he was 17, you know, being a shredder, being like a Steve Vai impersonator, pretty much. I like even said that Blood Sugar Sex Magic was the first album that they came out with, and it's like, oh, of course not, it's Mother's Milk. But you know, I don't script. Sometimes I'm just rambling and I have to edit it down slightly, or you know, if I film like late at night, my brain's a little bit more fried and I'm more focused on like the actual like hard details of like the gear I'm discussing or something like that. And I'm like certain remarks I'll make, I sit back and editing. I'm like, oh, you idiot. But it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, trying to grow the channel and uploading decently frequently in order to, you know, see that growth. Like I'm uploading like every 2 to 3 days last month and this month right now, which is a lot, but it's literally just like committing where, you know, if I want to grow the channel and do it, it's like I know that I have to sometimes make that sacrifice where it's like, okay, if a hockey game's on, but something came out, I've been like, okay, well, you know, like I got to go down and I want to film and get this done, or I'll do it, like I said, late at night in order to get it up the next day and do like the whole editing process. But the editing and thumbnail process I've gotten a lot quicker at, and like I'll batch do thumbnails in advance even, where if I know, okay, I have like, so I have a list on my phone, like a notes tab where just if something comes to mind, I'll quickly write it down, because a lot of the times I'll think of a good video idea. And then by like the afternoon, when I go to actually like, if I'm working from home or whatever, and by the afternoon, you know, like once I'm done work, I kind of go ready to sit down and start working on it. I'll actually be like, what was that idea about? What was I thinking of? So I try and like batch the thumbnails in advance for content that I know that's coming out, and try and batch what videos I know in advance I want to do. But then of course, you know, when a new shot of this pedalboard comes out, those videos, maybe if I batch and I pre-uploaded to my YouTube channel, they'll get bumped. And I just have to, I just got to do it, because I want to be able to, not necessarily be the first one to do it, but I want to get the content out there while people care about that topic. Because even that video I did talking about him when he was 17, it's done very poorly. And I think because it's been out for a week, and just I was more focused on the Blues Breaker one reissue coming out. And I think, that was, I think, the right choice overall for the channel's growth. But the downside of it was that video that I was kind of planning on making ended up sacrificing, because everyone had kind of seen that already. And so they're like, okay, we're done with that.
Yeah.
It's just, I say it to everyone, it's a lot of work though. And but as you know, doing a lot of video editing, stuff like that.
I'm still trying to figure out like a process, like with a lot of the stuff that I do, like so much stuff takes so much time, and like you don't really think about that until you start to sit down and do it. Like I'm only recently committed to trying to do like a once a week video type of thing. And the first week, like I knew it was going to be a long one, but I was just like spending so much time, on just certain aspects of it. And then going back and forth from thinking about what I'm going to say to like, what order am I going to put it in? And, all of that, and having to go back, once you start like thinking about what's going to like overlay on the screen, because I hadn't done this before, or like too many times really, it would have made more sense to like, okay, like completely get down like what you want to say, the order of it, have that set, then you can work about like what's going to come on the screen. And I'd rather, if I could, do it in a linear order, like get all the words out, get all the visuals, film it all, edit it, that kind of thing. Instead there was like a lot of back and forth between those stages. And it's like the same thing when it comes to building pedals. Like I'm trying to move towards more of an assembly line thing, where instead of like doing one pedal at a time, I'm going across like a whole bunch of them, whether it's 20 or 30, and I'm going to do all these components first, and I'm going to do all these, and
kind of because assembly line.
When you're doing them one at a time, it's like you kind of get bogged down on like, oh, this is taking me so long just to do one. And it's also slower because you're switching tasks so often. Like it's a lot easier for me to do one thing 50 times in a row, or it's like it's the same motion, versus I got to think about what's next, or I got to pick this up, put this down, pick this other thing up, put it down. It takes longer, I think. So I want to try and find the same approach with video creation. And you talked about batching them, like that would be amazing if I could figure out, okay, I'm going to say all this stuff. We can record a bunch of the voiceover. I still have a hard time like deciding what I want to do, deciding how I want to say it. For a long time, I just had a lot of stuff floating around in my head. I think I had even talked to you about this before, and at some point you had told me like, any content is better than no content, and I'm still struggling with that a little bit.
Yeah, I have a really good friend of mine. He was actually I saw he was in the chat earlier. His name's Kiefer. He's a fitness
Okay.
guy. He's won a bunch of bodybuilding shows. One of my best friends, and he for a long time struggled with that whole aspect of, you know, posting something because he was too much of a perfectionist with his content and stuff like that on whether it's TikTok, Reels, you know, YouTube, whatever. And I told him, like, in order to grow, you know, it's not going to be perfect from the get go. Like, I go back and look at my first videos that I did, and they're definitely not perfect. The stuff I'm putting out now is still not perfect, but you know what? I think everyone enjoys it. And if you can look past, you know, the fact that, okay, you know, I'm not George Lucas, you know, in the base of making some cinematic masterpiece here, you know, sometimes I will, mess up my words or, you know, the editing, I think I've gotten like a new vibe for the channel, like, you know, where it's almost like the size of my head for like
Right.
Instagram live that we're doing in the corner. And then it's, you know, I'm chatting and overlaying everything underneath. And I think I got a good system there, but I think people more care about the actual,
Right.
the substance in your content instead of, you know, it being absolutely perfect and polished.
Yeah, I
Guess
think
might
you
be a
get,
better word for it. But what I'll even
I was just gonna say, I think you can get away with like things not necessarily looking great. Like as long as the audio is good, that seems to be like the big thing. People don't want to hear crappy audio, but there's a lot of stuff where the video, like look at what everyone's doing on social media. It's a lot of shaky phone video. Like it doesn't have to be great video.
No, and that was one thing that I wanted to try and focus on, where I invested in a half decent Canon camera and like a shotgun mic and stuff like that, and a little bit of lighting. The lighting too is a big aspect of it that I never fully thought of. But it's Keith Williams,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sure you know 5 Watt World. When him and I were talking and kind of setting up for when I was on his show, he was giving me advice for lighting and stuff like that, and it's something I still need to work on for the YouTube videos, because you want that like bit of balance to kind of create more depth in your videos. And you'll notice a lot of people have like even a little light behind, where I have just the rail lights um behind me, kind of in the, you guys can tell there's like a lower ceiling
Right.
here, and then it shoots up a little bit for like this nook, and that's where we got a rail light system for all the guitars behind me, which is good for creating some depth, but people will go even more aggressive with like quite a actual light behind them to create that depth space. So there's so much stuff in it where, you know, there's details and new things you can do to make it better, but it's all about improving and
Yeah.
working your way through it and building up through something like that. But when you talked about batching, the only advice I can give you now on here is, I'm not sure exactly what your setup is like, because I know you do a lot more voiceovers, I think, than someone like me, who like I'm filming myself talking about the topic and then editing over top. But I'll batch if I can, and I know the topic's coming out. If I'm in Photoshop, like, you know, kind of in that mode, I'll batch do the thumbnails. Then I'll batch record, where I'll have like a different t-shirt even hanging up like beside me here, and then I'll swap them, because I got, you know, the cameras on, the lights are all set up and everything like that, or running and everything, and I'm just in the mood to chat. So I'll batch a couple of videos if I can, depending on how long they are, because obviously, you know, a few takes or certain clips and stuff like that to get through, where you'll keep flubbing up your words and you're like, oh crap, okay, reshoot that whole segment again now. But if you can do it like that, I find it's a lot quicker. And the same thing with the editing. You're in the editing.
Yeah, I would like to get there. It would just be a matter of I think getting the ideas and committing to, you know, just planning out what I want to do, because a lot of the time I'm not sure. Most of the time I have a bunch of stuff sort of lined up in my head, but I haven't decided necessarily, you know, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. And I think that's where I struggle the most, is with the planning of things. Yeah.
It's hard to get into that routine, but
Thanks.
I've been watching all your stuff, and
I appreciate that. It's been, like I said, that like the first video I did a few weeks ago, it was a lot of work, and you know, you talked about like recording something multiple times. Like I sort of challenged myself to, like, you know, it's, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't like the YouTube videos where it's like every like 5 seconds there's a cut, and it's like, you know, you can tell that it's just someone who's like spliced a bunch of stuff sort of together. And I wanted to have the challenge of, like, every time I'm seen on camera, like having it be one shot and trying to maintain eye contact and like kind of get through what I wanted to say clearly without flubbing any of the words. So I ended up, I sort of had my laptop up in the background with what I wanted to say, and I would sort of practice it a couple times and then say, like, record it, and then, didn't really go right. So I'd end up doing it like 5 or 6 times. And so what ended up being an 8-minute video, I'd probably, spent, I don't even know how long, like over an hour just talking, and then,
Oh man, I know the pain of that. Some videos I find are quicker than others, and they're easier to do. The video I did going over on Mayer's dumbbells, I think I recorded 2
and
hours
how long did it end up being?
of me talking. The video was, I think,
well, I mean, that's not terrible, I think. Yeah.
it's not terrible, but even so, it was like I was sitting there and I was like, oh god, I got 2 hours of footage. But at least I've gotten my editing process down where it's like I almost know when there's a longer clip of me talking, that's the good one. So I just slice, watch it. Okay, yeah, that's the one, and then I can delete like a huge segment of me taking 10 minutes to get one word right, almost. But and that's the thing. I've tried to do that too, where it's all one long take. But for me, I pretty much have me visually on the video the entire time. And so I've gone to the point where I'm like, you know what? If I splice it a little bit in order to make it work, and I'm not spending an extra 25 minutes trying to get the recording right, it's time for me that at least I can go and work on another video. And because I see a lot of bigger channels do it too, because I was just like that too originally, where I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. But that's one area where I've compromised, for me at least, in order to like find that better balance of like getting the stuff.
Yeah, I just kind of figured maybe if I keep doing it, I'll get better at it. And I think it's a good challenge. It's almost like public speaking, I was never, I don't know if they do orals like in elementary school in Alberta, but I hated that growing up. Like every year we'd have to give a 3 to 5 minute oral presentation.
I never had to do that. I did a public speaking course or a class in university, which was very interesting, but never did.
Okay. Yeah, it was tough as a kid. I was pretty shy. And even like in university, I had to give a couple presentations, and they didn't usually go well. And so it's kind of a similar feeling talking to, like when you first start talking to a camera, when you're just by yourself in a room, it's a little bit awkward. Yeah.
Oh, it's awkward as hell, man. The first few times you do it, you're just sitting there like, what am I doing? Like it's ridiculous. But I've had a couple people actually like comment on my videos within the past even year, just being like, hey, like, your personality's starting to shine through, and you're not as robotic, and you're a bit more animated, and you can tell you're a bit more relaxed. And it's honestly, it's something that just comes with time and practice, where you just kind of chill out and you're a little less in your head about what you're doing and stuff like that. At least I found, like, the more times you do it, the more content you just get out there, and you're comfortable with putting it out there and exposing kind of because it's a lot to put yourself out there, whether as someone who's making pedals, as a YouTuber, as all that stuff. It's a lot to kind of throw yourself out there in the world and be like, hey, here's my music, here's what I'm doing. There's a lot of people don't do that stuff, even though a little crap on you after doing that.
I'm thankful that most of the feedback has been very positive so far, like especially about the pedals and stuff, because still to this day, every time I send one out, I'm always like, oh, what if they don't like it, or what if something goes wrong, because you never know. And that's the last thing I wanted, is to get that negative feedback. And I'm always kind of like expecting it, in a sense. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just a weird, I don't know if expecting it's the right word, but
You're preparing yourself.
It's mostly, I can't really think of any bad feedback. I mean, I'm sure a few people have disliked my videos here and there, but I'm, very grateful for all the nice things that people say. I even, like, I did a survey a couple months ago now, and like some people wrote some really nice stuff, like in the comment box at the end. And that's the kind of stuff that's honestly kept me going, because like, I'm doing a lot of this, I've been doing it for quite a while and not really making any money from it. I'm kind of hoping that I can build something, slowly. And it's discouraging at times, because especially learning to build the pedals, like, I had no idea I was doing when I started. And I mean, I still sort of think I don't, although I know a lot more than I did. But I often like hit these roadblocks, or I don't really know how to proceed. And, you know, sometimes like the first time you order a new circuit board, you put it together and something doesn't work, you know, like that happens so often, and you just got to fight through it. But it's really discouraging sometimes.
Yeah, I get that. The one thing though that you've really impressed me with, and that kind of sets you apart from a lot of the other builders, because it's funny enough, there are so many builders in the John Frusciante
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
world, I guess. That makes sense. Like I feel like every other month I get sent a new builder who's doing a clone of, you know, one of the main pedals, a fuzz pedal, the chorus, like the C1, something like that. And the thing that's always impressed me about the stuff that you put out though is that your design is very unique and distinct from all of that.
So I've been trying to do.
And it comes across as like it comes across as something totally different, where like almost I feel like a lot, not all of them, there's a lot of other good brands out there, but a lot of them almost I feel like are bunched together, and it's more or less kind of the same thing you're getting. Like they all like look the same. They're all kind of, I feel like you're just kind of grouping them all together, where your stuff stands kind of alone. Like I've always said, like when people talk to me about this stuff, I'm like, the JFX CE-1 is beautiful the way you've designed it, and it's gorgeous. And it's just, you know, it's just your ability to do that, I think, is absolutely incredible.
Thanks, man.
You got to give
I
yourself
appreciate
more
that.
credit for even just your ability to stand out from all that. Even like the format of your CE-1 Preamp is
that was the first thing I did,
and something
that was
different.
Part of the thought process in that, because I knew some other people were doing it, was, well, I'm gonna make it orange, number one, because like everyone's trying to make it like this dark color, like the CE-1. And like they all did kind of look the same. And another thing was to put like the second output. I don't think there's another one that has like a stereo out, even though it's not necessarily like, I guess it's not really stereo. I'm just like splitting the output, but it can go to 2 amps. And making it as small as possible to fit in the 1590A. This is actually the new one. I haven't started selling these yet. It took me a while to, I just, for the new version, like added the high-low switch and the peak level LED, because initially I didn't include that. But initially I didn't put a foot switch on it because like you don't have the option with the CE-1. You know, it's like, yeah.
Everyone's
so it didn't make sense to me for it to be like mono with a foot switch. So I just thought that you can kind of like put it anywhere. It's always on. You just got the knob. And then I realized it's kind of valuable to have the foot switch, and I like having that peak level LED. But it was really a challenge for me to add the extra like circuitry plus that switch. Like the switch is pretty big and fit it in the same size enclosure. So I had tried laying it out like 4 or 5 times only to like realize it wasn't going to work. And I'm not sure what like dawned on me with the way that I did it now, but I finally figured out I'm actually stacking like 2 PCBs together. So I moved to a different type of jack. So this is just like one piece that can just like slide right down in there. And I'm not sure like how I didn't come up with that in the first place, but I tried several things and it was really hard. But you know, I'm happy that I finally figured it out. And I didn't switch to like using SMD components or anything. Not that I have anything against that, but I kind of just like using the through hole, and I think it's easier for like, I guess like if people ever wanted to mod it or something. But I kind of like the challenge. Like it was the same when I designed the Empyrean. It was a challenge to like, can I fit all this stuff in there? Like, I think knowing what I know now, I could probably fit a lot more in an enclosure. When I first got started, like laying something out, it was like the Empyrean was a real challenge, because that was actually like the second pedal I designed. And going on what you said about like trying to make something that's different with the Empyrean, like there were already people making a Fuzzrite clone. So I was like, I don't just want to make another Fuzzrite clone. It's like, how am I going to stand out So I was like,
That's the one thing I see everyone's making is the Fuzzray clone, and I kind of laugh a little bit because there's a lot of companies doing it, which the Fuzzray doesn't bring a sound for say Mercadium, but I've seen a few other companies or builders come out with a Fuzzray clone. I'm like, that's great, but John isn't. We even know now John's not using it, so it's kind of like I feel like there are different things that like the Frusciante community needs and stuff, but I feel like that's kind of the circuit that everyone starts out in doing. I thought it was super interesting when you came on the scene and you didn't do one. I was like sitting there thinking, I'm like, I like in my mind, I was like, okay, it's like I'm just trying to like in my mind for like a fun game, Gary, like gauge what pedals you come out with next. I'm like, okay, let's probably do the Fuzzray clone because that's what everyone does. And then you came up with the Empyrean, and I was like,
well, I mean, it does have the Fuzzray,
way there,
yeah.
But you didn't just release it initially, at least as a single.
I split it up after the fact, and well, I haven't really done much to promote those, but people weren't interested in that stuff as much as the Empyrean.
Well, I think the Empyrean for a lot of people too, is such a bang for your buck because they're getting all those circuits in one, and especially for new like guitar players, new John Frusciante fans, it's kind of like, okay, you're going to, because for that pedal, the power requirements can't be
it's just a regular 1.9 volt adapter.
How many milliamps does it need?
I haven't actually determined that, but I've been able to run it on a daisy chain, like with a WH10 and then DS2, and I don't have any problems with it.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. They don't need any fancy power requirements or a power supply to power a handful of pedals, especially when they're just starting out. You just take, probably like I say, like 100 milliamps will cover, especially if you're only running like 2 of them on at once or whatever. They'll be able to have that, like you say, like a DS2, a wah, and that covers the whole.
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, essentially. The problem with John is like he's using so many pedals and he's constantly switching them. I wanted to try and like do the same thing I did with the Empyrean with some of the new pedals, but I haven't been able to get there yet. I've been trying to figure out the Variac fuzz circuit because I have that pedal and I really like it. But there's no.
It's a good sounding fuzz. It's a very good sound.
There isn't an official schematic, at least. I have some idea, but I haven't got there yet.
And it'd be cool. I always think of I'm such a huge fan of Josh Scott. I've gotten to chat with him a couple times briefly, and I love his pedals where he has like the one switch where he goes between like all the versions of the TS10 or all the versions of the Rat. It'd be cool if you could do something like where it's like, okay, one box, one switch, but then it's all the different fuzzes Frusciante uses. You got not like the Fuzzray. You got the Big Muff. That'd be a lot more like circuit intensive than obviously variations of like a tube screamer circuit, I'm sure. But I was just that just came to mind where it's like I wonder like logistically how like that would be possible to do like something like that where you had them all under one.
It would be kind of cool, like because I don't think he's typically using. I mean, he probably does at times. I don't know for sure, but it seems to me like it's more like pairing a fuzz with the DS2 a lot, rather than using 2 fuzz at the same time. Although,
exactly, all the stacking, even the SD1 as well, which I think is just such a warm, welcome addition to John's tone, having actual overdrive instead of just crunch.
Yeah, you're a little limited with the micro amp, like it because it only has a single knob, like you're getting so much of a boost if you want to get like a bit more, of an overdrive sound, I guess. Like it all depends on how you set up your amp. But I think it's probably good for him to have something where you can turn up the gain, but also like attenuate the volume. Because like you could get pretty high gain stuff with the micro amp, but it's gonna give a pretty like big volume boost, I would think.
Yeah, well, I pulled it up here because that's one of the next videos that are coming out. From what I've seen, like the microamps usage is he's not getting that much out of it. Like for Snow, for kind of, when the final course comes back around, he turns it on for that, just to give him a bit more of a boost, which isn't anything crazy. Like obviously like Californication, even for kind of like the little solos he does for Hey, he's using it for a bit of a boost, and Soul to Squeeze for the solo for that as well. And exactly, it's not giving him a whole lot. It's giving him just enough to stand out a little bit more in the mix, give him a little bit more of a boost. But it's nothing, like before. So the fact that we're seeing the SD1 come out, I personally
I haven't been able to get one yet. I want to sound though. But there's definitely some tones on the new album that are sort of falling in that middle ground between, his sort of crunchy tone and then the full on distortion, like the DS2. Like, I think it's got to be that SD1, and also that's kind of the tone I'm getting out of the Super Badass. Is I'm almost using it like an overdrive to get. It's almost like a distortion, but like not the DS2 full on kind of thing. Like, I really like the tone on Here Ever After. Like, I think I get pretty close to that with the Super Badass, and I think there's a few songs like throughout the years that were sort of like that. They're distorted, but it's definitely like you can tell it's not the DS2. Like, it has such a distinct sound, and there wasn't many pedals on the board that were doing that before. Like, and like obviously, he's doing different things in the studio. He's used different amps and whatnot, but it's nice that he has some pedals that can kind of give you something in between that sort of clean tone and not the DS2.
Yeah, I find it helps me actually resonate with John Frusciante's sound a lot more. Getting these because What You Thinking, I think, is out of all the songs that they've released. And to be quite honest, I haven't listened to Return to the Dream Canteen that much. I gave it a couple of listens to when it first came out, and I was kind of like not vibing with that album as much as I did Love. That's just me personally.
I've heard that from a lot of people.
But I know everyone. Then the other side is, I feel like people are very like polarized one way or the other. I feel like they're either very much riding a limited love and not as big of a fan of Return to the Dream Canteen, or they're, Bella is everything and their Return to the Dream Canteen is the best album they've ever put out, and then Unlimited Love isn't that great. From all the forums I've kind of poked my head around, that's what I've seen. But I mean, personally, I would have almost preferred
that would have been
double album with all the banger songs on. I think that might have been the better way to go about it. I mean, I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm just thankful that John's out new music with the band and we're getting new songs. You know what? Like, I'm just happy about that. So, I can't complain too much about, everything that's coming up. But for me to hear like What You Thinking, like the tones he's getting off of that one with the SD1 especially, I feel like I just resonate personally more with that, because in my journey that I'm really focusing on a lot more now than I was before to find my own sound a little bit more, it's very much more like overdriven tones through like a Strat through a Fender or like a double. Those are kind of like the sounds that I find myself going more towards. So the fact that John's, having a bit more of an overdrive portion of his sound, I just find personally, at least, I'm resonating with it more. Whereas before it was like, I loved it. Like, I was like, this is all brilliant. But when it came to, going back to my own sound, it's rather
from
it. We're like I got a Marshall and stuff, but it's like, I don't.
Right. And it's such a big jump, like, between, like, using the DS2, like, at least I know when I go to, like, play on my own and sort of, maybe jam or improvise with people, like, I don't even know how to use it in, like, outside of the context of, like, Chili Pepper songs, because it's just, like, such a huge jump from going to, like, whatever your kind of clean tone is to, like, turning on the distortion. Like, I don't know.
It's a lot, and that's what I always kind of found too. Like, in the context of Chili Peppers, where that's their thing, it does the job perfectly. But for a lot of other stuff, the flexibility isn't quite there. And it's interesting. The past few years, I really started to Joe Bonamassa actually, and I kind of jokingly say that he's like the gear crossover for Frusciante and Mayer, because his amp rig is Dumbles, Silver Jubilees, his Fender amps.
I haven't dipped my toes outside of the Frusciante world enough to even know. Like, I know you're a big Mayer guy, but
yeah, Bonamassa, he's definitely not everyone's cup of tea, which is, you know, that goes with anyone else. But when I first really got into him, it was his cover of Going Down. I saw it and I was like, okay, that's actually pretty damn good. It was my dad and I actually like watched it for the first time like together. It just came up on YouTube like shuffle, and we are like, okay, that's actually pretty sweet. And then I listened to some of his tones with the Strat, and I was like, okay, those are pretty gnarly, like Strat tones. Like they're a bit more like, there's a bit more to them than like, you know, like Mayer's like clean sound. There's a bit more aggression almost to the tone, a bit more crunch than like what Frusciante was getting, but it's very much like that martially, almost like with a blend of Dumble kind of sound to it, if that makes any sense at all. And it's just crazy to see him running like, you know, Silver Jubilees, just like John, but like the way he uses them in the context of his rig, it's really cool. So I kind of find him as like almost the bridge. Like a song like Loving a Love Song, hit the Strat tone he gets on that is just insane. And so I'd be very curious to try and blend a tone like that, which I think might be more of like my true kind of sound, where like the Mayer clean thing is great, but I don't find myself fully in love with the real clean thing all the time. But then obviously not like the full distorted Frusciante sound. So it's like, you know, something more in the middle, but that's where my brain goes with all that stuff. So like I said, long way around, it's, you know, it's Frusciante having him on the ground.
No, I enjoy it too. Has like did it take you some time to sort of start to develop your own sound on guitar? Because I feel like I'm very much still just, I have so much to learn studying John's stuff and what he did that I haven't even been able to like branch out to who else I want to look at.
It's a never-ending battle, to be honest. And like a lot of people like have given me flack because, you know, I've done the whole thing where I've had like the same, like which a lot of people did, the same Arcadian board where you have, you know, all the Moogs on it. It all set up. I never actually finished it, which is a shame. It was 90, like I like say it's 99% complete. Like I didn't have the CP2 one or the Electric Mistress. That was all I was missing on it. But I did that whole thing, and that was just honestly, I wish I still kind of had that board, because it was just a fun song to jam on with people and just play a bunch of Chili Pepper songs with. It's just fun because it's such great, like, it just such great tunes where they're just fun to play, and they're not like, so some of them aren't quite as technical. Where like a song like Can't Stop, if you get the riff down, you're just kind of on autopilot most of the song, and I find like that stuff you can always kind of focus on more, or like Danny California, right? It's really straightforward. You can more just kind of enjoy playing the music, where like a lot of other stuff I'm like so deep into concentrating on like what I'm doing. But it took me forever to find my own sound, because I had the full like I had a full 1-to-1 of Mayer's rig off of the last tour he did and stuff like that. And I kind of hit me just one day where I'm like, okay, you know what? There's all this other stuff I want to try out, and I'm constantly either experimenting with stuff for the sake of the channel, for the knowledge of like, okay, this is what I think he's doing because I have it in front of me, or, you know, I want to have that stuff so I can showcase it almost on the channel, and make like, you know, make that video of me having the same pedal board as him kind of deal, right? Almost to like, it's good content, it's going to bring people into the channel, and, you know, it's just going to be cool if I make content with it eventually. And it's going to hit me one day where I'm like, nah, you know what, there's other songs. Like I'm a big fan of Ariel Posen, who I've gotten to know a little bit as well. And Chris Buck, I love the stuff he's doing with Cardinal Black. And it kind of came to that stage where there's lots of other artists I want to explore and sounds I'm inspired by. And I want to figure my own thing out. So I bought a combo Fender amp. I got a Vibroverb now, which has been a grail amp of mine actually for a while. And I got like a little pedal board down below me where it's just kind of like, not fully random stuff, but like it's got stuff that I haven't used in a while, or new stuff that I bought. Like I got a Thorpe Deep Ogden chorus on that now, and stuff like that. Just trying new things out, and it's kind of
just trying new things out
here. Just trying to figure it out, but it'll take you a while. But at the same time, it's like going back around to what I mentioned, people kind of give me flack for it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm never 100% going to sound like them. And I always kind of quote John Mayer, where he said, you know, in my failure to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan, I developed my own sound anyways.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you know, that's what he did
Yeah.
when he was younger. Stevie Ray Vaughan's signature Strat into a Fender amp into a tube screamer. He was literally doing the Ray Vaughan thing. And even with his most famous guitar, he wanted the number one relic pattern, just in black, is what he wanted. And John Cruz was like, I can do it very close. I can't get you to the state. You're going to, you know, we're in legal trouble doing it. But, you know, even someone like him, that was
and John started up, you know, well, Frusciante, like, you know, trying to play what, like, I think you mentioned like the Steve Vai thing earlier when he was a teenager, but, you know, he's into learning that and Frank Zappa songs and a whole bunch of stuff, trying to learn solos note for note. And it's obvious that whatever, I don't know, they talked about that in the conversation with Rick Rubin too. Like, everybody starts off sort of trying to copy somebody else, and then like when that falls away, then your own sound is going to come out. But even John says, like, he's heard other people try and sound like other people, and they don't. They end up sounding like themselves anyways. So I don't think people should give you flack.
I think that comes down to the whole debate of tone being in the hands and in the gear as well, so to speak.
Well, I mean, definitely, I think
instead of the argument, but
I don't know. I think that the gear is important, but like, you could have all the greatest gear in the world, and if you aren't very good at playing the guitar, then your tone's not going to be very good. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's sort of like an apples to oranges argument. People saying like the tone is in the hands, like, what, you know, one amp sounds a lot different than another amp, and you run it through a whole bunch of pedals, like, it's going to affect a lot of this stuff, from the way it sounds to the way it reacts to your playing. I don't know.
That's the way I think it too. I think of it as two separate things, where like tone is the amplifier, the pedals, the pickups in the guitar, the electronics. But I like to say your feel and your touch, what actually makes you recognizable as a player, is your hands and the dynamics of your picking and your finesse on the instrument, and the two of them together create that artist's that player's sound. But, you know, your hands aren't gonna, like, I'm not gonna make my Marshall sound like my box with my hands. It's impossible.
You gotta also like know how to get the sound that you want out of your gear. Like, that's one of the biggest things I struggle with, is sometimes I go in a different room or in a different context and something doesn't sound the same, or maybe I'm just like, you know, because of the room and the way the sound's bouncing around or where I'm standing, if there's other people playing, like, it doesn't sound like it does when I'm playing at home. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I get that sort of, because I expect the guitar to do a certain thing when I hit it a certain way, you know, and sometimes that doesn't always like sound the same. Or if I go and play through a different amp, it doesn't react the same way. So like, what I spent a lot of time trying to recreate a lot of John's tones using a lot of the same pedals that he uses and models of amps. But if I just plug my guitar straight into like a different amp and hit the string really hard, it doesn't sound the same. It sounds sort of sometimes really, really boxy and clean. Whereas I guess what I'm just trying to say is that how you set up the gear like matters too. Like, you could even have all the right gear, but maybe you just don't have the amp set up the right way to, you know, be on that edge of breakup or something like that, where it's going to react the best way.
Yeah, I think too, something I see a lot is where it's great, where, you know, like if I make a video showcasing, okay, here's how like so and so sets X pedal, you know, here's how like John sets his whatever. But if you don't know how that pedal works inside and out, the moment you try and like experiment a little bit with it, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you don't get to know the gear. Or I'll see a lot of people asking, you know, what are the best settings for, like, just online in general, ask what are the best settings for this pedal. It's like, well, the rest of I understand the concept of everything else that you have going on affects it. And if the pedal's only 3 knobs, I think you can just spend the time in figuring out what sounds best to you instead of, what some random guy on the gear page tells you is the best setting to set everything.
Yeah, I try and avoid, giving that kind of advice. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been in a position to say that, like, these are the exact settings someone uses, but like, I see people saying that kind of stuff all the time. Like, oh, if you're going to use the DS2, like all the knobs have to be maxed. And like, that just doesn't work with my setup.
That's the thing with a drive pedal. Yeah, with the drive pedal especially, it's the rest of your chain is so much more important. Okay, for like a chorus pedal, okay, so that's fine. And it's not really reacting with the rest of your rig in the same way as a drive pedal will, when pushing your amp and stuff like that. But for exactly like the micro amp, the DS2, a fuzz pedal, it's got to work in context with your rig. Like, what is your amp set? Like, what kind of pickups do you have in your guitar? Everything like that. So it's really hard to, I think it's good to know, like, for example, like John, okay, here's how John's running the settings on his DS2. Start there, but then don't just set and forget it. It's like, okay, this is the baseline of where he is. Now I'm going to try and tweak it from there to get that same sound. That's kind of nice to know, like, in the ballpark of where.
Yeah, depending on like how you have the other things set, or like, John's got so many different pedals that even the order of them can make a difference at times. Like when you get into impedance.
Oh, 100%.
And yeah, like you might not set your amp the same way. Like, to me, like, I've never been able to use the DS2 with all the settings max. Like, it would give too much of a volume jump. Like, I'm always at least turning the volume a bit back. And depending on if you have a made in Japan one or a made in Taiwan one, like, there's a difference there too. Like, I find the made in Japan one has a lot more output. So I'm not a fan of the people that just say these are the settings, or I see those types of posts where it's like just like an amp EQ, and it's like, this is this person's sound, and turn the knobs this way, this is this person's sound.
I've seen a lot of that going around lately, where it's like, okay, and I think there's one account on Instagram, and I'm 99.9% sure it's like satire, and it's like a satire account where it's like, here's the settings you need for, it'd be like, yeah, like just John Frusciante song, just keeping it all within, the same topic. Maybe like volume 10, treble 1, bass 10, mid 7, no amp, no nothing else. Just those 3 knobs. Put them at this.
It's ridiculous
sound. It just on any amp. It's I love it. It's so fun. Vince, Vince is I think you know him too.
Vince, one of the first people to take notice of me, get me on a giveaway, like when I first joined Instagram. So I have a lot to it. He actually got me on the first, like, the podcast going there for a while. I talked to him on there too. Yeah,
he's a great guy. He helped me out get a couple custom things done for some boards I made too. So
nice work.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I wanted to ask you about, well, there's a couple of things, but I feel like, I get it in my head and then it gets lost. But you mentioned like that 5-watt world thing. How did that come up? Because you did like an interview with him too, right?
That was really interesting. I just come back from the Taylor Hawkins show in Los Angeles, and I checked my DMs, and they they don't get like, I'm not like celebrity or anything where you're DMs. You could scroll through your requests, but I sometimes get backed up with replying to people, and then I'm looking in there and I see 5-watt world has sent me a message, and I was like, okay, well, that's weird. And it was Keith just reaching out to me, being like, hey, like, I've been covering a bit of stuff on John Mayer's guitars, and he had posted a video on John Mayer's guitars, which all the stuff he puts out is fantastic. He doesn't make a bad video, but his production value and the time and effort he puts into his channel is another level. Like him, I've gotten to chat with him quite a bit, actually. He's a really great dude, number one, but learning his process and learning some tips and tricks from him.
Awesome.
It's just incredible. The work he's put into it, and the systems he's done to make it all possible. But anyways, he just hit me up and he was saying, I want to do he's like, I try to do like live streams. If I do a video, especially if there's a lot of interest in it, I try and follow up with that on a live stream. And he's like, I don't know everything with Mayer's gear and stuff, but he's like, you're someone who I've been watching your channel from afar. a bit, and he's like, I'm a big fan of you and what you do, and I just think, I'd love to have you on.
That's
I was like, holy shit. I'm like, okay. So we set up a time, and yeah, it was that was that pretty much. Yeah, I went on with him and just chat about Mayer's gear and stuff like that, and yeah, it was crazy. It just was something. So it's funny, like the channel like mine has done a lot. It's done a lot better than I ever thought it would, to be honest. It's at like a stage where I never thought it would get to at all. And, just getting to chat with a few other people in like the industry, a few other fellow YouTubers, who like are way bigger than me, have just like, to hear from some of them, like Mary Spender reached out to me once, just being like, hey, like I love what you do, like keep it up, be everyone chat John's gear kind of deal. Like,
right. That's awesome.
it's like, hey, like I see what you're doing, like I love your stuff, like keep it up. Like people who are just, absolutely crushing in the YouTube world, and it's become their career. It's like music is their career, and whether it's strictly YouTube or it's a supplement to everything else. And that's kind of like the dream for me too. Obviously, it'd be nice to do this full time. It be your dream and stuff.
Yeah,
but it's
that must have felt good.
Just very thankful to everyone who's checking.
Raise the levels to this, eh? Like,
yeah.
I was just listening again to that. Like, I keep bringing up the Rick Rubin, John Frusciante conversations, but he brings up Rick Rubin brings up the Paul Davids video where he talks about the like Frusciante playing Scar Tissue and the string being out of tune. John just like must have just been out of tune. I didn't know, but it was funny to see it.
Just shows his ear. He was like, "Oh, this sounds great. So let's record." Yeah, I don't need to get into the technical aspect, but I was amazed when Paul even made that video. I never even had realized that it was out when he came out. So just the fact that he was able to figure that out was incredible.
I just was like bringing that up because of like the size of the channel that Paul Davids has, but then to be like recognized by Rick Rubin, that's like such a huge thing, and it's
and it's crazy, like you said, the levels too, like the smaller channels, so then this to that, and then you like say you get to someone like Red Shaw and someone, but then you go up to someone like Paul Davids, the next level and stuff, and then like you say from there you go way up to it actually reaching.
Really, it doesn't even need to be on YouTube.
The reach too,
or like have his Instagram page, or it's only one post at a time. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
I feel blessed just to be able to talk to you, or to talk to like Nikola Gugoski. Like his channel's really blown up. I've been following him for quite a while, and actually I've been watching your channel too. Probably like I've been up to date with sort of like, there wasn't too many people creating Frusciante content. I'm not sure when your channel started, but I do remember. Well, I don't remember like seeing the gradual increase, but like at a certain point you had a ton of subscribers, whereas when I first started watching, obviously you didn't at the beginning. I wanted to ask you, like, at what point did it like take off? Because I know like in the last year or so, at least, your videos, like a lot of them are getting a lot of views, like very consistently.
Yeah, it was one of those things. So the channel I'll hit 2 years of uploading consistently this late spring, probably around like, I'm gonna say June, I think it was, like end of May, beginning of June. And like it took a while for it to gain traction. The biggest increase though into like the channel growing was about April last year. When did the Unlimited Love era like really kick off with the tour? That was
I guess the album came out on April 1st. Oh, they're on.
Yeah, so it'd be in April and May last year. It got a huge jump because that's when I actually started making like the John Frusciante content started really like coming out, and so that gave me a huge boost, because instead of just doing like John Mayer content, now I had two different audiences that I can pull from, and I know there's a lot of people watch all of it, but then I have like
which one came first?
One or the other.
You started doing Frusciante stuff first?
Came first. No, the Mayer thing like I'd been posting on like Instagram and like some other kind of stuff, like chatting about like John Frusciante's gear initially as kind of like my dip into like the whole social media content creator realm. And then sorry, got distracted. Luke, SRV is 2010 or 11.
Oh,
year. No, I'm sorry, I just saw that question pop up. And then I actually did I started like a small podcast with a few friends of mine. I'm just chatting about Mayer's gear. And that was kind of like a pilot project of mine in the back of my mind as well. Like, okay, like, is there an audience for like content on YouTube when it comes to this sort of stuff that we can track? And we did. So then it kind of came to, okay, like I'll start the channel, and like the Mayer thing kind of came out, and I was fortunate enough that like me and a few friends of mine had created like a Facebook group around John Mayer's gear just for fans to come together and discuss things. So I kind of developed a lot of connections, and people had started coming to me as one of the few people who really paid attention to the gear and stuff. And so the channel, I kind of was my way too of being like, okay, I really hate false information going around. It's just such a pet peeve of mine where it's like, I try and help people out, and then, you know, someone else to come in and be like, no, it's this. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. Like just listen to me. Don't listen to this random other dude on the gear page or whatever.
It's crazy how stuff gets echoed on there, like, you know, on forums and stuff.
Oh, it's crazy. And so then I was like, you know what, like the best way for me to go about getting this information out there is to just make content about it that I can redirect people and just tell people. And I've always enjoyed making content. Like me and one of my buddies, we were making like Halo 3 YouTube videos when we were whatever age when Halo 3 came out. We were stuff, and I always had a passion for like just video editing. I always found it super fun and everything. So the Mayer thing came first, and that was doing very well. And then the Frusciante thing hit, and that's kind of what gave the channel a big increase. And then slowly from then on out, like, you know, being on 5 Watt World, like, we're thankful to Keith, because that definitely gave me a lot of exposure for sure and stuff like that, to I think a few different people who maybe had like seen me or knew who I was, but, you know, to get picked up by someone like him, I think, you know, that was just something.
Yeah, it must feel good just to know that, you know, these people are watching or like to be noticed.
Yeah, it's funny, like, you know, like Robert Keeley, like when I made the video on the Mayer's history with the katanas, and like I kind of came up with my own like designation of like the different versions that they've had over the years, and he was like, hey, you know, like we started using that at the shop for all the old versions. Now we started using like your system to like differentiate the different versions. And Robert's a really great guy too, like to just have him hit me up and just chat with me for a little bit and stuff. Just to hear from these people it's just interesting. It's very humbling too, you know, that a lot of these people that I've looked up to in the industry and stuff like that to, you know, get to know. And everyone's super nice. Everyone's, you know, it's never like one of those things I found where it's like, don't meet your heroes, like where, you know, you meet someone or like you chat with someone just briefly and they're like, you know, not what you'd hope they were. Everyone's been super great. That's awesome. So it's been,
that's great.
It's been wild. So hopefully, it just keeps growing. And that's why, like, you know, 2023, I'm trying to really grow it up. And like, I've been pumping up.
Yeah, every just a couple of days, man. That's great.
It's a lot, but it's, you know, it's
yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you've got a pretty good system, and like, you know, I like what you said about being able to do it in batches, and I think you're doing a really good job with your thumbnails too. Like that's one thing I noticed. Like they're enticing, like the thumbnails and the titles. It's like, you know, it makes people want to click on them. It's like it's a huge thing.
Thank you. It's such a hard. It is. People don't understand that like your thumbnail is almost just as important, if not more important, than the actual content in the video, because people don't well, and what it doesn't matter how good the content is, they're not going to see what it's like. So it's so important to get that right, and I'll sometimes spend more time on the thumbnail than I do the actual shooting, scripting,
That's crazy.
of the video. I found I can't like make up my mind about what I want to look like, and I'll have like, I kid you not, in some of them, like I'm not as bad as I used to be, because I've kind of gotten a new layout my thumbnails in a new vibe, and reception has been very positive on it. So I'm kind of sticking with the same formula. It's not broken right now. Let's not try and change it up right now. But there were times where I'd have literally like 4 different versions of one video's thumbnail. And if the video wasn't doing well, I'd swap it out immediately. And that's like an actual trick too, like people do, is they'll change thumbnails or the title if the video's not hitting.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that if you were doing some sort of A/B
testing. But not really, a little bit, but I've personally never noticed like a massive change in like how well a video is doing. And YouTube's just, it's so difficult to try and like, the moment you think you know YouTube and how that algorithm works is the exact moment it will flip everything on its head and change it up. Or like, out of a video that's just popping off, it's doing super well, like, you know, like you'll see, you know, your dashboard where it shows you it's like a 1 out of 10, a 2 out of 10, a 10 out of 10, you know, compared to your latest uploads. It'll be popping off, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, this one's going to do very, very well. This one's going to be like one of my best videos in a while. Then all of a sudden it'll just die out of nowhere. It'll go from like getting like hundreds of views an hour to, you know, 20 an hour. Like just like the graphs are like there, and then straight across and nothing. Or then a video will be doing mediocrely. It'll be like a 5 out of 10 of your last uploads. For those of you guys who don't know, in your studio on YouTube, it gives you a list of your previous 10 uploads and where your newest video ranks. And that's kind of, you know, YouTube's feedback system for you. So I'll have a video that's like a 6 out of 10, you know, underperforming, below average, below the baseline at least of like a 5 out of 10. And it'll just be crazy. I'm like, okay, you know, the video's doing okay, but you know, it's not gonna be a ringer, which, you know, definitely not every video is going to. And like 4 or 5 days later, all of a sudden I'll wake up and the video's gotten like a few thousand views out of nowhere. And then the graph layer was kind of like steady, slowly petering off. And then
I think I saw you post a clip of that, of like the bar graph showing like the views per hour, and you're like, I don't know what's up with the algorithm, but like just all of a sudden it just started getting a ton more views.
There was one day where I think YouTube was having problems because one video was doing very, very well, then was getting like none at all, like 0. And then all of a sudden shot right back up again. So that specific instance you're referring to, I think YouTube was having an issue that day. I know Vigi, he ended up posting about the same thing, and a lot of other creators as well, where like something's going on with YouTube for like a certain hourly range. Right. So you deal with that stuff too, which is never fun. And then of course you get into the whole copyright issues you run into with certain things and stuff. And I've gotten a very good system of avoiding it. Not avoiding it, but like not, I guess, technically like infringing or like, you know, diving into use should have been enough where I'm allowed to do
what would you have an issue with? Because you're mostly just like talking and showing maybe some, is it the clips that you're showing?
Oh yeah, it's the clips. So like my best video on the channel I did, where it was footage I shot of the John Mayer concert where he pulled out a different guitar and he did a way different solo than you'd ever expect him to do. And the footage got tagged by like a subsidiary of Columbia. Not even sure exactly how like much authority they even have to like claim it, because it's not like Columbia Records themselves. It's like some group that like apparently is hired by those companies to just go and claim stuff or whatever. But then, you know, like that stuff's not like it's not like gonna affect your channel. If there's copyright strikes where you get a couple of those within a certain time frame, YouTube might actually shut your channel down. But those are just like essentially where your revenue goes to them, or you in that case at least I'm splitting it, because that video did very, very well.
That's probably why they're interested.
Just things where it's like, of course you guys are claiming this one. I'm like, but I think it's the length too. Like I found like that's why like some people have like mentioned in the video, like, why are you only showcasing like a 10 second clip sometimes, or like a 30-second clip? It's because this is what I'm allowed to share before I get no revenue. And like the revenue on my channel is not like phenomenal, but it's enough for like, you know, if I wanted to fund a new lens for the channel, or new lights or something, or if I wanted to go out and get a new pedal that people want me to talk about, I can afford to do that at this point. It's not replacing my day job and that's what other people ask too. They're like, oh, you know, you're getting on this gear, like that's crazy. Your channel's doing so well. I'm like, oh, this is not the channel. This is not, you know, when you get to hundreds of thousands of subscribers and your videos are getting consistently hundreds of thousands of views, then you'll start to see like a very considerable income from the channel. But at my level, it's like, it's some nice cash in my back pocket for sure, but it's not, you know, it's not replacing my day job anytime soon. But that's kind of the trouble that I find I get into. And that's the biggest headache, is where I'll sometimes upload a video before it's finally edited, just with the clips trimmed exactly how I want them. I'll upload that to YouTube. And then if it gets tagged as copyright, then at least I know I can go in and trim it. It's not done the whole video, uploading it. I've done this happened to me a couple times, and that's why now I have a system where I've uploaded the video, it's ready to go the next morning, and then I get tagged with copyright, and I have to, you know, instead of going to bed, I have to, you know, by the time it's uploaded, like an hour later, and the processing checking's all done. Like, okay, I get out of bed, I just check it on my phone, come back down here, trim it, upload it, sit here waiting for it to go through. Okay, it's still tagging it, re-edit it again, upload it a third time. And then, you know, like 2 hours has gone by at that point.
So sorry, what's the new system
that you run into?
Like,
so what I'll do, if I know where there's a lot of clips of like, the Chili Peppers or John, that's what I do, like Mayer, doing a song. I know that in general, I can't post like the full song. I gotta post like a 30-second clip, usually less. I try and post like around like 15 seconds as like a good target range too, because you don't want to keep your audience watching just a clip, and you'll get like a bit of a fall off because, okay, like, you know, I've seen this clip before, or okay, I get the point, like move on kind of deal. But what I'll do is I'll trim, you know, all the parts of me talking and the video laid out exactly how I want it with those clips, and it's like segmented into the video where I need it to be. Then I'll just go right ahead and upload it to YouTube without any of the other editing done to it at all, just with the physical clips laid out how I want them to be laid out in their time frame. Then if YouTube doesn't register any copyright infringement on that video, then I know that it's good to go. And then I can finish the editing process. Instead of leaving it to the last minute, because sometimes for certain videos I'll upload it like very much like 10 p.m. at night. It's going live I have my videos go live at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, or 7 a.m. sorry. So, you know, it's the night before, and all of a sudden it's flagged. And so I gotta go back down and do it too, because it's not just a revenue thing. It's also a viewing. They'll block you something. Video getting shown in like certain countries, and sometimes they say certain countries, it's 99% of the world. They block.
So these copyright things are kind of like before it goes public. Is that what you're saying? Okay, that's good. Yeah. So you'll see. I guess for you, it's not necessarily as big of an issue right now, because once you hit monetization, that's when it becomes a bigger concern. But yeah, like they'll flag it, and like sometimes, unfortunately, like they'll go through and they'll tag it after the video's been going for a while. At like any video, any of my videos right now could get tagged at any moment still. And there's people who actually go and manually check them, and then they'll manually like tag. Like certain companies actually have like people they've hired to go sit on YouTube all day and find content of theirs that they own, and then to flag it, even though, you know, there's a lot of like, you know, free use argument and stuff like that with things. But yeah, that's something you'll deal with eventually. I hope so. Well done. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can try and take a couple of questions from that chat here. We got a little bit of time left. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm just scrolling. I know this is.
Oh, I know.
By so quick.
And I talked to Nikola. We were on for almost 2 hours, and I had talked to him like previously the week before, just to you know, sort of like as a test, and it's crazy how the time flies. Oh yeah,
he is one of the OGs too, especially in the John Frusciante community. I remember when I was years ago watching his videos on how to play different songs. It was really cool to see you have him on. It's just like
I thought I had started, like I had mentioned to him, like, oh, I've been watching you like from the start of your channel, and I didn't realize he had posted videos way back, like I guess 2008. He said, because it was 15 years.
Yeah, it's insane. He's been on for so long. I assume my buddy Alex asked about the interaction of Dave Lee through my channel. We can chat on that too. Yeah, so Dave Lee, you guys, I'm sure you guys Chili Purpose fans all know John Frusciante's guitar tech. He watched a couple of my videos because I wasn't giving like John necessarily flack, but I just was being, I think, appropriately critical. I was given appropriate criticism in terms of Frusciante's rig and how it was performing on tour, where he was having a lot of issues. There was one stint where it was almost like,
I remember the time
go on completely. And I just was saying, I was being, passionate and being, I was just being, I think, appropriately critical of being like, guys, like this is John Frusciante's homecoming to the band. And like you just hate to see it. And like there's, in my mind, there were some clear things that they could do in order to solve it. I'm not a professional pedal builder by any means and stuff. But there just was some clear things that I think they need to work on. There were kinks, and my channel's half, diving into the gear details. There's a bit of journalism as well in it, just reporting on, like what's going on in terms of the gear space and, things like that, and keeping people updated on what's going on. And, there are the few percent of my people who subscribe to my channel want to just know my 2 cents on something, which is, probably generous of saying that's what it's worth in my opinion, but I'll just give it. And that's, what I kind of do on the channel. So Dave saw the video because it did fairly well. And he was kind of, a bit like, he just did not like, especially, I think the comment section is mainly what kind of drew him off, where a lot of people were calling him to be fired and like saying that, just a lot of like, unnecessary comments against him and stuff like that, which I totally agree was, not necessary. So I think Dave kind of came in a little bit hot, just being like, like all BS kind of, and stuff like that. And so I chatted with him and kind of gave, my position on everything. And the result of it being, I made one of the videos that I had coming out right away. I just made a clip in the intro being like, guys, like, just to clarify, not calling for anybody to be fired. I'm not saying he's a terrible guitar tech. I'm just saying they have issues they need to work on, because this is what's going on. This is the facts of the situation. They're having issues with his rig, whether it is, part of like his, like the back end system, past his pedalboard, with his pedalboard, the amps, whatever. They're having issues and they need to figure it out. That's the gist of it. But, no one needs to get fired. We don't need, anyone like hating on Henry or anyone else for that matter. It's, if you could equally blame John for wanting to go ultra old school with this setup and using a bunch of old,
and pretty much like, was it that he was using their own series? Like, is he still doing that?
I'm not
right.
No, so he's got a gig rig Fortimaster system underneath.
It's an improvement.
It's very interesting to me, because I'm not sure if that was added after or if it was always there, because that system in my mind you'd think would have helped solve the problem. But what they ended up doing is having like his promotional pedals, like some of us have called it, where it's got like DS2, reverb, a couple fuzzes, SC1, all like the main bits on the side, ready to just swap that in if the board goes down while Henry can work on it, which that's something added after, which was good. But essentially, yeah, the gist of it was, not the gist, but Dave was kind of came in defending Henry and kind of had to, be like, listen, I'm not calling for this either, kind of deal. Like, I just want, I just want the tour to go well. And I want, I don't want John to get in a headspace where he's having a lot of this stuff going on. And then, my fear was if he's having issues and he's getting super frustrated, as you could tell he was getting frustrated on stage.
Right.
I don't want him to leave again. Like, I don't want this to be, a negative experience for him and something that, he kind of deals with on a nightly basis. So Dave and I chatted, and that's pretty cool. We got cool real quick, but it was one of those things where like, everyone
did he make some comments like on the video, or does it? I'll have to go check that.
Yeah, he commented right in the video.
They're still up there.
Yeah. I'm sure they're still up there and stuff. And then when he saw my I told him, like, listen, I just made a thing saying, they're just trying to like calm my audience down and stuff like that a little bit, and like the people in the comments down, and re-clarify like what I was saying. He was like very appreciative of that, and he was then him and I got really cool real quick after. But I mean, you can't blame the guy though too. You know, he sees and if it's getting roasted in the comments, and it's, you know, he's coming to his defense, and I think any of us would be kind of, you know, a bit frustrated with seeing that too.
I'm still surprised that John doesn't use something like a loop switching system, especially for the amount of effects that he uses.
Well, it's funny you say that, and a lot of people commented that, and, you know, obviously me with John Mayer being the other big part of my channel, his pedal board I think has more pedals on it, all in series, and he never has an issue. There's not one show I've seen or heard of where he's having an issue with his board. It's always running perfectly. So it can be done.
Yeah.
And he has some vintage and odd, like, finicky pedals on his board too. So it can be done, you know. In the context of Frusciante's, I don't know what was going on.
I don't even mean it in terms of just something failing, just from the fact that, like, some parts, like, having to, like, tap on and off multiple pedals at once, just, I don't know. Me personally, I don't like it. I would like to just be able to, like, hit one switch and have a whole bunch of stuff change. Like, I think in the context of the Chili Pepper songs, like, that would make things so much easier for John.
See, he opened my eyes to the amount of that these guys do. I remember when I think it was Will Galuccio years ago posted a video of him covering Danny California, and that was kind of when I was getting a lot more into John's gear, and I saw what he was doing with all, like, the different parts and stuff, and it's not like absurd cabinets and by, like, you know, what some people do, but just even that where it's like, okay, this part on, this off, this on, you know, just the certain things you do. It does, you know, I do kind of think it's funny how why people don't have switches, but the same thing with John. I feel like his board's always kind of a bit of excess where he has so many pieces on it that I don't think he really ever uses, but it's there in case he needs. And if I want to activate this on now, if it's all preset or something,
well, you could
have that.
I mean, I don't know.
I think it's an old.
I don't think it'd be that hard to set something up where, you know, you've got.
It's just a single loop.
Yeah, or even like I've got a loop switcher that just has 4 different loops, and I basically have one for, like, effect type. You know what? You can put all the distortion in one loop, all your modulation in one loop, because, like, typically you're not using 2 modulation effects at the same time. So I can just say, oh, for this song, I want to turn on the flanger, turn it on inside the loop, and then when I want to engage it, engage the loop. You know, put delay in another one, filter effects in another one. And then you can set it up so if you want to have your distortion and your delay come on at the same time, like, it's just one button. You know, I think it'd be so much simpler. But...
yeah, something like the Gig Rig G2 or, you know,
it's anything. I mean, like Josh was using I don't know exactly what he was using, but he had some kind of loop switching system set up, and even had some pedals off stage, like when he was in the band.
Yeah, I think that they were even activating off stage.
Yeah.
I might have to go back and watch those.
It's a shame. I was going to say it's a shame John won't do one of those. I think they asked him.
Well, look, he had the bright. I know Josh had that bright onion effects, like a looper thing as well. These for like a fail-safe device. So at least he's doing that with, like, the gig rig system underneath his board. But as well, that's one thing they've been kind of kept on. But yeah.
Well, cool, man. It's been great to chat with you. Thanks again for doing this.
No, of course. Thanks for having me on. It was great just to sit.
Yeah, we've
chat and hang out for a while.
Just chatted a few times, but not the same as talking in person.
No, I know exactly. Chatting through Instagram is definitely not the same as, you know, getting on a video call and doing this again. So, you ever want me to come on and chat about anything else, or ever want to chat?
Sounds good. And I still want to send you something. I'll get you one of these preamps at least.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to check some stuff out of yours for sure. I still gonna do it. Got the old CE-1.
Oh yeah,
it's a bit temperamental.
Pretty old pedal.
It the chorus sounds. Yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes it's kind of like it's plugged in, it's on. Right. Wait, no, okay, now it's on. Okay, that's fine or work and stuff. But no, dude, it was awesome.
Thanks,
and chat with you.
And thanks for all the nice stuff you said too about the pedals. That's awesome. Glad you like it.
Oh, no, of course, I'm definitely someone who, if I don't like something, odds are I'll probably chat about it. At least I always laugh on the channel when people are like, "Oh, would you ever talk about this stuff?" I'm like, "Oh, if I don't like
Right,
something,
right.
you guys will probably hear about it. But if I like something a lot, you'll hear about it a lot too." So I'm just not gonna. And that's the thing. The last thing I'll touch on with the YouTube thing is I've had a lot of companies reach out to me and want to like send me stuff. And the biggest thing that prevents that from happening is like, number one, I don't want to do sponsored content. I don't want to sell myself out, especially if it's something I don't believe in, where it's like, I'm not going to like try this X line of pedals out because,
Yeah,
it's not going to resonate with my audience. I've had like official,
right.
those like smaller, like
Yeah,
budget brands have reached out and been like, hey, like, you want to test out our whole line and make some videos on it saying X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, no, like, it's not how I roll. If someone sends me something, I'll try it out. If I like it, I'll for sure talk about it. But then I tell them too, if I don't like what you sent me, people will probably
right,
about
right.
that too. And right away, that's what like turns a lot of people away from it.
No,
But it's like, I'm not
no,
gonna lie. I'm not gonna be one of those guys who essentially like takes a check for saying how great something is when
yeah.
they're not buying into it.
I,
So yeah, I think your stuff's incredible, and you deserve
I appreciate
you
that.
deserve all the
I,
recognition.
and like about what you're saying there, I feel sort of the same way in terms of like who I want to send my stuff to demo, because it's like, because I'm doing such a niche thing, being like, sort of this Frusciante tone chasing sort of community I'm going after. Like, I want to send it to people that I think are good at achieving the tones and playing the parts. So that kind of like limits my options there too. And I know I'm sort of shooting myself in the foot by not having enough demo footage out there. Like, I want to create more of my own, but I also want to find some more people to play them. So if you have any ideas, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. If I ever, yeah,
Hey, man.
for sure.
Well, yeah. All
Pleasure.
right.
Well, yeah, we'll be in touch
Thanks,
soon.
Justin. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Take care.